Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raider Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Hondo Carpenter, editor and publisher, joined by my assistant beat writer, my friend, my buddy, the young gun, or as Kyrie Irving would call him, the young blood, Zeke Trezevant. Zeke, how you
Hey,
doing, buddy?
hey, I'm good. Don't reach young blood. Do not reach young blood. Yes, I'm doing very, very well right now. Excited to be here. Obviously, with the season underway, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. So excited. Thank you again.
All right, let's hit it. My article this week. Obviously, I don't think you panic after 3 games. There's 14 games left. If they win this week in Los Angeles, they're back to where we predicted them to be at 2-2. It was just a wake-up call. Josh has the locker room. I didn't say he's lost the locker room, but when you're pushing these guys as hard as you're pushing them, at some point they're going to want to see results. What did you think of the article? It went viral around the nation. I want your
Yes,
insight. And, and,
yes.
and
The
by the
article.
way, I wanted to say something real quick because people who don't know, obviously you work for me, but you don't have to kiss the ring. You are more than welcome to disagree or whatever. We
Yeah.
want that free flow. Is that not true?
Well, that is 100% true. I think to your point, and we just talked about this a moment ago. Sometimes I agree with a lot of what you say because it's just so accurate, right? I'm not going to disagree with something that lines up with what I've been noticing and what I've been seeing over the last couple of months. So that's actually a kudos to you because everything you say or most of the stuff that you say is usually pretty accurate, usually pretty true, and you do a great job of throwing it out there, right? You're never disrespectful, you're never crossing the line. So it's hard to disagree with what's right. It's hard to disagree with something that lines up with what I've seen. So in terms of the article itself, I think you hit it right on the head, man. I think it's too early to panic, but at the same time, we can't sit here and act as if it might not be time to panic, right? If they go to Los Angeles and lose and they hit 1-3, or God forbid they hit 1-4, yeah, you have to panic at 1-3, 1-4. You do. So the article I think did a great job of saying, hey, let's take notice of what's going on. So in the future, we can look back and say, hey, this is where things kind of went wrong. But I think how you laced everything up, man, it was perfect. It was accurate, and very respectful, and had a lot of foresight to it as well.
Obviously, you can look at the Denver game and see a lot of things that were good. There were still bad, but a lot of things that were good with Jimmy Garoppolo. The last 2 games, he's masterfully come out in the first drive in Buffalo, the second drive last week against the Steelmen. But overall, Jimmy Garoppolo, their handpicked guy, he's been very unimpressive. And I like him. You've been
Yeah.
with me in the locker room. I like him. I think he's a really good guy. His teammates believe in him. But man, at some point, proof of the pudding's in the eating. And right now, this ain't very good eating.
Yeah, you can't deny what is being seen, and nothing that you say or I say that it goes against the team necessarily is not personal, right? But we have a job to do, and at the end of the day, when you have your previous quarterback that left town, the way that he did, and you bring in your guy, all eyes are on you, right? And especially when you lean on the system or the way as much as McDaniels does, well, the system in the way has to work out, and right now, neither one of them are. And I honestly think both kind of go hand in hand. The system works if the quarterback is playing well. So I think Josh finds himself in a little bit of a pickle, if you will.
So let's go this week in San Diego. I mean, San Diego. I keep saying San Diego because I'm a lot older than you. I remember when they were San
Yeah.
Diego. Well, you
Yes,
do
sir.
too. You're old enough to know. But if they don't start fast, and let's say it's 17-20 or 17-21 in the third quarter, fourth quarter. It's going to be interesting to see how this Raider team is now. Do they get tense? Thinking, oh my God, we can't go to 1-3. Do they get tense or do they stay loose? That's all on coaching. That's all on
100%.
coaching. The mindset of your team. When your team comes out fast, which they've done the last 2 games, actually the last 3 games,
Right.
but when they fall off, that's on coaching as well. Now, let's not pretend like this is all Josh McDaniels. There's been horrible player execution.
Agreed.
That's coaching. Bobby
Yes.
Bowden, who was the famous coach, you probably won't remember him, of Florida State, won a national
Yes, sir.
title. Bobby Bowden said to me one time, and I thought this was so powerful. he said if one player, if the right play is called and the players are in the right position when the ball is snapped and the play fails, he says, I'm going to put that on players because the coaches had them in the right spot. He says, but if it continues to happen that they're in the right spot and they're still not performing well, then I'm going to go to the coaches and say, what are you not teaching?
Exactly.
Or what are you not doing in recruiting to get the players who can play your system? Here's the whole deal. Josh McDaniels, you can clearly blame the Raiders for poor drafting before him and Dave Ziegler got there, and that's very fair. That's very fair. There's a lot of depth missing on this team because of just horrific drafting. But a lot of these guys are their handpicked guys. They brought these guys in.
Yeah, especially now, right? Especially this season, even more so than last season, to your point.
Yeah, last season was a mulligan to me, a year one. But all of a sudden now, these are your guys. And your offense has gone from 13th in the NFL to 29th.
So one of the worst. So one of the worst. Yes.
And I mean, I put it right in the article. The proof of the pudding's in the eating.
Yes.
And you can tell I've eaten a lot of pudding in my life, but I'm just saying, to you, Zeke, I'm anxious to watch if they get behind, do they get tense or loose? So because we saw in Denver, they were loose.
They were loose.
There's no tense in Denver.
Yeah.
But in Buffalo and against the Steelmen, they were tense. Your thoughts?
Yes. So I think Buffalo was Buffalo was an anomaly across the board. So I kind of take that one out. You look at every statistic, that was just a bad game. And last week, though, I think what I tell people is that football is the best reality TV, right? Because while you're looking for touchdowns and field goals, we're looking at hey, how did the player take a left there or take a right there, how he's frowning, right? So to your point, I think they were very loose in Denver. I'll say this, they were very loose in practice this week. They definitely have a focused mentality, but they were very loose this week. So I think if push comes to shove in LA, I think they're going to be loose as well. However, I'll point this out, though. I think last week you go to Buffalo, obviously you're on the road, and they were essentially on the road, but at home. I think that impacted their mental more than anything. I think the opposite could happen Sunday in Los Angeles. If they get to LA and it's 60% Raiders fans, as is being announced, I think that could play into their hand. That could play into them staying loose. Just like the Steelers probably were a little bit more confident when they got to Vegas and they saw all those towels. I think the same thing can happen to the Raiders when they get to LA, who most people would agree is a Raiders town. I think once they get that feeling inside of SoFi, it could help them stay loose in crunch time.
This is going to be the only true home game the Raiders have all year.
Why do you are you saying because of all the opposing fans coming in too? Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I think it'll be 70-75%. Every time they play there, it is.
Wow, okay.
And it's going to be huge Raiders, and this is going to be their only true home game.
Yeah, in LA. And they fans, Raiders fans show up every time they go out to LA. So, but yeah, do you think that's because of, Vegas just being a destination city, right? If you can see your favorite team playing in Las Vegas, that they just come in huge numbers?
Yeah, see, I wrote about this before they played their first game in Allegiant that this was going to happen. And in Dallas, when they built Jerry's house, it became a destination city because of the stadium. Yep. This is a destination city, even if they didn't have a football team. You got to remember, I was told this by Rick Goslin, the Hall of Fame writer, my mentor, and a dear, dear friend. More people would travel to Las Vegas on an NFL weekend than that could fill any stadium in the NFL before there was a team here.
Wow.
They came in every weekend to bet.
Exactly. So, of course, they would go to a game.
Right. So, I mean, automatically you knew if more people were coming into Vegas on a weekend for football when there wasn't even a team.
Just the bet. Yeah.
And I know a bunch of people, that's not true. I know one guy who, with a bunch of his friends, came in that didn't even have tickets and were Steeler fans.
Yeah. Is that big of a deal?
It's that big of a deal. All right, Zeke.
People just want to be around the stadium, 100%.
I'm going to have you put on your Carmine hat. You're too old to remember that. That's from Johnny Carson.
Yes, sir.
I want you to tell me the score in the winner this Saturday. Now, just in the interest of fair disclosure, I'm saying 2017 Bolts. Your thoughts?
Yes. And I have mine 24-21 Raiders, in terms of score, in terms of prediction. I've been going back and forth on it, honestly, in terms of what I thought. The Raiders haven't scored 20 points all season. And I'm predicting that this is going to be the week that they do so. And it's hard to pick. I mean, we know what the Chargers do. We know what they have a history of doing. So it's just as hard for me to pick the Chargers over the Raiders. And I kind of have a positive attitude. So I think the Raiders pull it off. But I think obviously divisional game is going to be close either way, probably less than a touchdown score game. And we're going to see. But I think the Raiders pull it out, man. I think, honestly, I think Jimmy ends up playing. He was at practice. And if he doesn't end up playing, I think
Jimmy's going to play. Jimmy's going to play.
Jimmy's playing. So I think they're going with Jimmy in there. I think this is going to be the game Jimmy figures it out. I hope this is the game Jimmy figures it out. We want, like, that's what we want. We want these guys to do well. And I think this is it for Jimmy.
Listen, I don't root against the Raiders.
Yeah.
I want them to do well. I know them all. They're good people. That's why in my article, I don't know if you picked up on this part, but I said, I like Josh McDaniels.
I like these guys.
I do. I'm not rooting against them, but unfortunately, there are people that I covered that I could not stand.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have rooted for him if I had to, and nobody would have known it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's completely opposite here. Dave Ziegler is a great man, great father, great husband. Josh McDaniels, you couldn't like these two more if you knew him. I understand fans who don't know him.
Yeah.
I'm not rooting again. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope, but we have a job to do, right? Like, I hope that, you know, that they succeed, right? I hope that they don't go out there and lose, but at the same time, we have to make sure we're being honest and we're being objective in our, you know, what we're doing too. So, yeah, I think it could go either way. I'm going to go Raiders, but I'll say, man, and you know, I told you last week, I legitimately thought that they could go on a 3 to 5 game winning streak. That's how I felt before the Steelers game. Well, after the Steelers game and with the Chargers here, if they lose this game, I don't know, Hondo. I don't know. Like, what do you do at 1-3, 1-4? What do you do?
Well, Josh McDaniels will stay the process. And we'll talk more about that next week. But let's hope next week we're talking about a win.
About a win.
Nothing is going to make me happier if next week we start the podcast with, hello, everybody, welcome back. I was wrong.
Yes. Like,
but if it comes back, I was right. I don't even want to think about it.
I don't want to think about it either. I don't want to think about it. It's scary to think about. So hopefully they figured out LA is the perfect place for them to figure it out against the Chargers. Perfect team to figure it out. Like, if they don't do it here, I've got some questions. I do. So fingers crossed.
All right, buddy. Listen, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your friendship. You're wonderful to work with. You're one of my favorite guys. Give Jasmine a big hug. Tell her I said hi. Would you, buddy?
Yes, sir. We'll do. Hey, Hondo, appreciate everything, man. Thank you as well.
All right. He is the one and only great Trezevant. He's my assistant beat writer. This is Hondo Carpenter, beat writer, publisher of Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders today. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for our daily podcast.